You don't have to love this. Now, I've been milling around about this, making a video about this for a long time. But in this community, you hear a lot about positivity, and rather than me be positive, which I never did, right? Like, I hated dialysis. I hated dialysis. I hate dialysis. I hated dialysis all the way up until the time where I got a transplant. My mindset about this never changed. It literally did not inhibit me. Me hating dialysis didn't inhibit me from getting a transplant at all. Rather than me stay positive and fight my own emotions about how I felt about this, I compartmentalized everything when it came to dialysis, and I treated it like a job. Like, I would show up for work, I would clock in, I would do my job, I would clock out, and then I would go home. That's the mindset that I had. With dialysis, I had nothing but contempt for dialysis. The whole entirety, that whole 4.5 years of me doing it. And I would get a lot of people that would try to indoctrinate me into a certain way of thinking. They would try to get me to change my mindset. I've had several doctors, hey, maybe you should change your mindset. They give you some crap about, change your attitude, change your latitude. And that's fine in certain situations, but when you have two major organs in your body and you literally need a machine to keep you alive, and if you don't do this, you're going to die, that philosophy kind of changes a little bit. For me, there was never a moment where I was grateful for dialysis. I always hated it. There wasn't a moment where I was appreciative. None of that. It was just a job. I initiated me doing dialysis because I wanted to live long enough to get to the transplant. That was always my end goal. That was a thing that I never forgot. And admittedly, there were times where, I reached that point where I felt like I was never going to get it. I got to about the 4.5 year mark, almost 5, and I was like, I'm never going to get this thing. Like, it's just never going to happen. And then boom, that's when I got the call. But you don't have to love this. Being on dialysis, it's not a requirement for you to relentlessly stay positive under any circumstances, no matter what happens to you, no matter how many surgeries. You don't have to constantly stay positive. It's okay to hate this. I did. And I still got the transplant. What you should not be doing is you shouldn't be taking your frustrations out on other people. You shouldn't be a prick. And you shouldn't let dialysis be the entire focus of your being. You shouldn't let hating dialysis be the entire focus of your being. While I was on dialysis, I just kept doing the same things that I did before. I'm a gamer, so I gamed. I drew. I wrote. I collect things. Those things didn't stop. Those were things that I would have been doing anyway. But admittedly, there were some things that I did have to stop doing because of the physical limitations that I had and the time restraints I was on. And that hurt me a lot because there were things that I wanted to do that I physically just couldn't. I didn't have it in me to do. But I treated it like a job. And because I treated it like a job, it didn't make it easier. But I avoided this conflict that could rage in me about how people were telling me that I should feel about this and how I actually felt. When I was on dialysis, I didn't feel great. And I wasn't happy. And I didn't look at it as the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life. I didn't need tragedy to make me a better person. I didn't need tragedy to make me appreciate the things and the people in my life. I didn't need those things. My focus, instead of being positive all the time, being like indulging in that toxic positivity of no matter what happens, I took that energy and I focused on making sure my labs were good, making sure that I was making the treatments making sure that I stayed on my schedule, make sure I wasn't skipping any of my treatments, making sure that I did my labs, sent those labs in, making sure that my machine was working and up to date. I took all of that effort and I focused it into those areas, so that way when it was time for me to get the transplant, I was always ready, always ready. The worst mistake that I could have made was, not only do I hate dialysis, now I'm not doing my due diligence to make sure that I get off of it.